speakers because thank you, Karen. If you have been in this meeting, you know that the format of this meeting is we invite one speaker, and that speaker invites the person who wants to have a conversation with. Brenda invited Andy today. I'm very excited to hear both of them. However, I need to say something because I wanted Brenda to come to this meeting since the inception of the meeting, and we didn't know if the meeting was going to catch up. She said she had her schedule full up until September, so we just, I said, no, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm so glad that we have her here today. I think most of us know that she's going a gratitude tour this month of July, right? And it's good because we get to hear her a lot, but the reason that I wanted to have Brenda here, and especially talking about God, is because I wonder when we say in the program, look for someone who has what you want. I wonder if that's the longing that we all have for God at one point or another. You know, I wonder if when I hear somebody speaks and I hear the God in them, what I want and what I crave and what I desire is that connection with God. And for me, there's no question about it. That when I hear Brenda, what I long and what I desire is the connection with God. I love her images of God. I love how he speaks about God, and I can't wait to hear her have a conversation with Andy. So welcome both of you. The meeting is all yours. Go for it.
Thank you for your kind words and your patience in working out a date for us to be here. Andy, I was sharing with them that I gave you the least amount of information possible for today. I do know that you are speaking in person. I'm assuming that meeting starts on the top of the hour. So if you have to go or whatever, take care of that.
It happened already.
Oh, shut up. You already shared?
Yeah. I'm here.
How was it?
It was right in here. It was great. And we're in We Agnostics. So what a better place to be than that? Gee, how about that?
No wonder you look chipper. Here I was going to practice some consideration for your time, you know, and Andy, when you share, my friend, you have this beautiful prayer that you begin with, and I'd like for you to do that for us this evening.
Well, thank you, Brenda. So this prayer is a prayer of unknowing. Thomas Merton, who said things like, God's first language is silence, but he gave us this prayer. God, I have no idea where I'm going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think I am following your will does not mean I'm actually doing so. But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you. And I hope I have that desire in all that I'm doing. I hope I will never do anything apart from that desire. And I know if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it. Therefore, I will trust you always, though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death. I will not fear, for you're ever with me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone. Amen. Okay.
And for those of you in the meeting, that's like the end of our preparation together. But being as in my experience, when I am in a relationship with God, then I'm always in a conversation with God. And I'm always looking for how to make the best use. Y'all know me, man. Like, I don't like waste at all. That I think that if people have come to listen to some sort of conversation about God, that I want to talk about all of it. I want to talk about the obstacles to it. What's been in the way? I want to talk about how I found my way through those obstacles. I want to talk about why God, the other name I have for God is something better. In my experience of that. So having said all of that, go ahead, Andy, start off with something.
Okay.
Andy, I love you, my friend. I love you.
I love you too. Brenda, I do talk. And the amount of time we spend together has ramped up in the last 3 or 4 months. And it's God pointing us towards each other. The broad highway, has got narrow for us. And it began, a year or so ago. I don't know, we're both restless God seekers, and somehow that began our conversation and our journey together. So, I'll just say it straight out. I mean, my soulmate is sitting right here, and I'm truly blessed. And thank you for having me, Brenda. It's an honor and to be with everybody in this gathering. So I do speak in musical terms. It probably annoys some people, but I was so wasted and so blocked and so homeless for so long, I didn't hear anything. And now the songs just reverberate. They reverberate because my life is full. My life is not a cappella; it's an absolute symphony today. So it doesn't matter who wrote the song. Of all people, Led Zeppelin wrote California Sunlight, Sweet Calcutta Rain, Honolulu Starbright. The song remains the same. The solution remains the same. We are those that would generally not mix. And what we have here is not just, being not a glum lot, but maybe a motley crew. But what we have here is we mix pain and we mix recovery. That's our cement that binds us. Despite our journeys being generous, whatever we've all had. And for me, over the last period of time, I've come to the conclusion that, I come from a place where what does not God do? God does it all. Lately it's been bright and shining. It's not always been that way, but the light is very strong right now. And I get smaller, God gets bigger. The voices that I hear today that have directed me, here right now, after a period of, I wouldn't say drifting, but I would say that because there are strict spiritual laws such as God doesn't waste pain, it's been a painful period to come to the conclusion that my sobriety is not up for negotiation. And that's been somewhat of a contentious point around my house. We're granting each other all spiritual license here, I've been married a long time, been married over 40 years. Susan's had me sober almost 20 of them. And we're together, but some new understanding has had to come. So God seems to express him or herself in willingness. And when I'm willing, I'm changed. But God also expresses him or herself in getting my attention, and just snapping me into attention. And from that place of desperation and surrender, God will meet me in that place of surrender. That collapsing of whatever I think I should be doing, on my own, not consulting God. Because today, how much time am I spending with God? A lot of time lately. It was explained to me, I could use little barometers. One barometer is if I spent as much time with my kids as I spent with God, would my kids feel loved? That's a hard one. And that's come up from time to time. But not right now. Not right now. Things have been pointed to me being very, very clear. And yeah, Brenda, I'm just going to pass it over to you because, our conversations have been so gentle, so loving, so poignant, but also so riveting as we've progressed on this journey together.
And Andy, you said so much, but one of the questions that I have is, so you're talking about this new clarity that's being called forth, right? And so my natural, normal question is, what about that scares you the most? And then what do you do when you're afraid like that? I know what my experience is, and I want to share that. But before we leave just that little piece that you gave us, that's my question to you.
You all taught me that fear is a faulty relationship with God based on self-reliance. And it's not like I'm not going to feel that. there is some trepidation. There is some fear. I wouldn't be honest if I didn't tell you. But I get pointed to the bedevilments. I get pointed to page 52 as the question for today. Where is my agnosticism today? Right? Where am I not having God as the central focus? Where are the fears that I have today? And we know they're always in the future. They're always in the future.
I'm going to tell you. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, you go. Go ahead.
Just that, so I had this on my calendar. I knew it was today. I'm just kind of going meeting for meeting during these weeks. But I have to tell you that some part of me was like, okay, God, I just need for you to help me get through the meeting. Because then after the meeting, given the circumstances of my life right now, what's happened in my life today, what happened in my life yesterday. So over the last 5 days, there have been these things that have felt like they've just completely taken the wind out of me. I felt as if all the wind has left my lungs and left my body. And on some level, I was like, God, please help me just get to that meeting and help me share whatever it is they most want to hear and whatever they need. And then I'm going to need to sit with you and just weep and sob because this part is hard. And when I'm in that kind of pressure, when I'm in that kind of heat, it's how they purify gold, right? They throw it in a cauldron of some sort and put the heat under it. And then everything that's imperfect rises to the top. And then the people that are purifying the gold take off the top and then wait for all the impurities until what they're left with is nothing but gold. And that is my experience and my relationship with God. So when the heat comes, so when I feel the heat of my own life, last week I spoke 5 meetings in 5 days, and every single one of them was just this complete, huge emptying out. And I would ask God for the grace and because I wanted it to be quality shit. And I don't mean shit like in a cuss word. I mean it another way, but I can't really get into that right now. Sorry, Raquel. Anyway, so then here comes today, and I realized in the purification process of arriving here to Andy that all the obstacles to my relationship with God have originated outside of me.
Yeah. And that's a revelation. That's an awakening. That's an awareness. That's coming out of slumber into the moment and recognizing the truth. Little did I know for me that my disease, our disease, can express itself through other people that love me, that I've been with for many, many years. It's not their fault. It's not their fault because this disease will gasp for air from any place, from anyone. And in the end, who am I responsible to? I'm responsible to follow God's will because I've been saved and I get to live a life of peace, contentment, and purpose in the service of others, which means that I need God. And it kind of unravels all the way back to the obsession, doesn't it? I need God between me and the thought of the first drink so I can live in a recovered state, not cured. Because that fatal obsession, right, that fatal obsession in which if I'm recovered, as we talk about in step 10, the problem's been removed, which means in a recovered state, I have no choice but to not drink. In an unrecovered state, I have no choice but to drink. I'm not choosing. But when God's between me and that thought, I mean, that's the whole ball game. That has to be preserved. I can't negotiate any of that because I won't survive. I won't survive. So the realization that the disease can express itself in loved ones, without them really being conscious of it and without them even, doing it certainly intentionally. And that's what came to me after a lot of negotiation back and forth with me, with God, with others. And yeah, I can breathe today. You know, I'm a whole lot lighter today. And it's driven me even closer. Um, so while it's being in God's grace, what's important and what's I think kept the long timers sober is having that relationship with that provides the grace. Folks like you, Brenda, folks that have been around here on this call a lot longer than me, and I'm seeing that now, a constant renewal as circumstances shift. So for you, that life stuff that happened, that's brought you to another place, hasn't it?
You know, I have this vivid image of the experience of the last few days getting on here. I have this experience as if I hear God's voice from somewhere in the distance, and I just intuitively and inherently know to run toward that. And I find myself running toward God, having to take off my judgments of other people, having to take off my pride, having to take off so that I'm not carrying all that weight, because I can't get all the way to God with all that weight. And over, I just feel myself losing things and setting things down because it is far more important to get to God than it is to get to God prepared. I don't have to get to God with a solution. God is the solution. Hey, I remember one of my earliest memories in life is I remember praying when I was like 4. I was also sleeping behind the couch in my house for probably a whole lot of reasons. So I remember being 4 and I'm sleeping behind the couch. There's 9 of us. I have 6 sisters, 2 brothers. By the time I was born, my older sisters, I had already started to have kids. And so it was a full house. But I remember sleeping in the back of the couch, and I remember praying to God, and I remember what I prayed. And what I prayed to God was, "Dear God," verbatim, I'm 59. I'm 59 and have had a whole lot of life between that little baby behind that couch and the woman who's sitting here with you today. And I remember saying to God, "God, please forgive my sisters for yelling at me. They didn't mean to yell at me. And if yelling at me means that they have to go to hell, I want you to know that I will go in their place if you would just let them come to heaven with you." Well, that's whatever 4-year-old is. I really believe that before I left God to come here this time around, that before I left, and you've heard me share this, said like, Andy, I think that he like cut a little sliver. He cut a little sliver from his heart, and he cut a little sliver off of mine, and then he exchanged them. And I remember God saying, this way we'll always be together. And this way we'll always be able to find our way home. And so all those obstacles, look, if I'm getting on this meeting, listening to people talk about God, I need for them to talk about the part that sounds like the struggle I'm having. Right? And here's the struggle I'm having. Those obstacles that all came from outside of me. I had a religion that was telling me that I had to be a certain way and failed miserably. I came from a community, a Hispanic community that said, yeah, I have to be a certain way, and failed miserably. I had my own ego, my own disease, my own mind. Bobby Earl used to say, my mind is convinced it can kill me and go on without me. And so I had all these obstacles, but here's the important thing. Everything I thought that was true about God, and I believed it because I heard it. People said it. I was living in the reality of the things that scared me about God. Brenda, if you're gay, you're going to hell. Brenda, if you don't honor your mother and your father, depending on whatever the hell that meant on any given day, and so I felt that way because I heard that. But here's the problem. Here's where that logic doesn't hold up, and that is that I didn't have any proof. I mean, if you ask me, am I a licensed driver, I can reach in my pocket and take out my license and prove to you that I am. But I had no proof to all the things that had been said to me and all the things that I just accepted as the truth about God. And there was no way, Andy, there was no way I was turning my will and my life over to that God. There was just no way. But I had no proof. I would have told you God hated me. Except I looked at myself and went, where's the proof? How do you know that? You know, I have a friend in recovery that talks all the time about question your thinking, question your mind, question your thoughts. And if I don't have proof, then it's not real.
Yeah, just for context, so at age 4, um, lived in a small apartment in Brooklyn, New York, in the kitchen, by the oven, and my mother would check the gas jets to make sure the gas jets were off. This has taken me all these years. You know, I still check the gas jets like 10 times during the day. You know, that was my experience. There wasn't any praying. And you said so much. I was blessed to hear a fifth step today, and it again reinforced the power, the unlimited power of God expressed in us, through these results of these steps. In Bill's story, there's a revelation. The door opened and he stood there fresh skinned and glowing. There was something different about his eyes. In your eyes, the light, the heat. I am complete. I see the doorway to 1,000 churches. Today, with one of our fellows, we had that moment where I was as close to another human being as I've ever been close to, and I think that was true for him. And it goes on and on.
I remember in my own experience, Andy, of finally getting to this place. So I got sober, you know, and I'm like, I was raised in church. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to quietly sit in AA until I can figure out how to be sober without having to deal with God. I just wanted to be quiet enough to be able to get sober without having to talk about God. And I didn't find it.
Mm.
It wasn't there. God, I looked. And so the day came, you know, my sponsor said, we're going to do step 2. And I read step 2 and it said, come to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I wanted to say to her, but what about if he doesn't want to? I'm not questioning whether or not he can, but what if he doesn't want to? And I just, for the first time, as a 24-year-old woman, turned around and said, kill me. Go ahead. Kill me. I don't care. I'm not running. I can't run from you anymore. And I was prepared to die that day, Andy, at that park. She told me to go somewhere I thought God might be. And I turned around and some part of me on my way to that park was saying goodbye to my family, was saying goodbye to my own life, because I knew something was going to be different. And so when I turned around and looked at God and said, kill me, burn me, leave me, you know, all those things that I had been so afraid of. And I remember I remember thinking, he's just not going to, maybe he won't kill me, but he's not going to extend any grace either. He's not going to help me. My punishment is going to have to be to suffer without him.
Mm.
And so the last thing I expected to have happened on that day was to have God put his arms around me. And all I could say over and over was, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry that I broke it. I'm so sorry that I left. I'm so sorry that I didn't come back before now.
Brenda, thank you. I'm right with you. What's amazing is the details of our stories sometimes separate us, but the truth and the miracles bring us together. In my journey to the desperation, it was taught to me that God meets me in the depth of my surrender and not necessarily in the place of desperation. And mine was different. But we all came to the same place. It's like the line in the book that says, we in our turn sought the same escape, as that of a drowning man. And we take turns being desperate, apparently, right? We pull ourselves through. Some days I may be, some days you are, and vice versa. And the fact of the matter is we're not generally all filled with desperation at the same time. So we can guide ourselves through. To get to that summit reminds me of the parable, dismount your donkey at the summit, where we all ride different donkeys, and eventually we get to the summit and the journey's been different, but then the donkeys are laid to rest and we both see the vistas together. Yeah. My experience just wasn't with that situation, though I did have that desperation the first time I did a fear trail. The first time I did a fear inventory and asked, why do I have this fear? Why do I have this fear? This trail, this thread, this spiral that left at the end with, there is no God. Or is there a God and the God doesn't want me? And I was gripped with fear at that moment. And I knew that it was just an expression of my disease, that wasn't true. But that fear, that agnosticism terrified the hell out of me until my sponsor said, well, wait a minute, isn't that, a manifestation of your disease? And I said, yes, it is, expressed in fear. Which brings me to this. It was said to me that in AA, plagiarism is original. Plagiarism is wisdom, only stupidity is original. So I want to say something that Jimmy A said from Jersey. And he said, do I view life through the lens of my character defects, or do I view life through the lens of God? Do I view life through the lens of my character defects, which is a third dimension view, dimension that I lived on for so many years, or I view life through the lens of God, the fourth dimension, the worldless spirit? I've had a lifetime of being in that third dimension, and I sometimes fall back into it and get buzzed right into the fourth dimension again. And what is the third dimension that still can grip me? It's selfishness. So it's stuff we know, dishonesty, fear, a thief, a liar, an imposter, in the dungeon of self, all that expression of the spiritual malady, the search for wholeness that took me to the depths of hell, all the lies from the pit of hell. but it doesn't mean I'm not going to experience them. And one of them is back to what you said. If there is a God, would that God accept me? Would that God love me? The doubts that you had about that, and I've had. How long does that last for you, though? It can't last long.
Well, let me just tell you, like the day that happened, and I gave God to permission to do whatever it was that he needed to do to me, and that he embraced me, like my whole life changed at that moment. And what has been different is that every moment since then, so I'm like 35 years sober. Oh my God, I look delicious. Okay, so I'm 35 years sober now. And I want you to know, I can see my own cheeks. I don't usually, but that's how God feels. That's how God feels. I can be having like the best day, but I start talking about life and love and grace and goodness, and it looks like this. And I've had people like ask me in the middle of my talk if I need to sit down and shut up for a minute. It goes out. But and so then that was in my first year. So I had to have been about 4 months sober at that point when I was working on my second step. And since that day, this has all been different. And I have spent every day since 4 months sober, Thomas Merton, I don't know if you guys know, but when a man is going to be ordained as a priest, at the moment of that blessing and that sacrament, the man will go up in front of the altar and lay face down on the floor with his arms stretched in both directions. The utter position of surrender for me. And from that position, he surrenders himself to God in God's service in the priesthood. I want you to know that I lay like that before I speak.
Wow. Yeah, complete.
Because I've spent every minute trying to open my heart wide enough. And so because of the little things that I learned how to do at first. And listen, when I talk to God all the time, and I'm like, what do you want me to say? And be clear too, because don't not be clear. Okay. He's like, he always, like God always says this, tell them that the stuff that they think it's my fault, that it's not my fault. He said, life is happening. And I'm always the one saying, I'll be here with you. I got this. I'm right here. Like anything you need, I'm right here. He's like, but then they think it's my fault. And then they can't ask me for anything that they need because they think it's my fault.
That's complicated. That sounds complicated. But you touched on it. You touched on step 2. What brings me back is to what was shown to me on page 55 in the big book. The mechanics of step 2. It's not changed. It's as relevant today and as juicy today as it was when it finally was shown to me and I put it into action. The proper attitude. 3 parts. Think honestly, search diligently, and lay aside prejudices. With that, the consciousness of my belief, our belief, is sure to come to me. It's as solid rock promise as any promise in the book. To actually still use those mechanics, because what it does, that attitude is with an open heart, an open mind and a loving heart, instead of a greedy soul. To get on the path of being a servant's heart, being a taker for so long. But first being a receiver of your love in order to learn to be a giver. That's been my experience, and it seems like it's never going to change. Yeah.
And it's funny, Andy, because the one thing I know for sure too is that everyone has their own path. Everyone has a singular path to their power. And so people are always asking me, how'd you do it? Who do you read? Who do you study? Who do you go see? And I'm like, no one. I always tell the kids, y'all know I'm a school teacher. I tell the kids all the time, follow your heart. It knows the way. And then that's what I do, right? Like I'm not, look, if you don't remember anything else from my conversation with Andy tonight, as far as my part, is that God has always been on my side.
And rooting for you, and rooting for me, and rooting for all of us.
I know.
Our biggest cheerleaders.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I wake up in the morning and God's like, hi. And I'm like, hold up, right? I'm like, hi. He's like, so anyway, today's going to be a great day. And I'm like, okay, listen, excitement. I need to go pee, as you know, and I need to get some coffee. Okay. He's like, that's fabulous. Okay. So I'm coming with you. And then he like walks around the house behind me. He's like, so anyway, today's going to be splendiliciousness. And let me tell you why. Andy's going to call the day at 10 and you guys are going to get a chance to visit. And then you'll get to see pictures of the granddaughter. And then after that, you're going to go to Never Too Early on Sunday and see all those good people doing all that good work. And then, somebody's accidentally going to buy you a cookie today. I'm like, shut up. What time is that going to happen? And so, and then it's like, by the way, Brenda, if anything's bothering you, like if anything's like making you like feel heavy or sad or disappointed or anything, I'm going to take care of it. I'm like, you're going to what? He's like, I'm going to take care of that. And I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to do? And he's like, well, you're just going to walk around and do joyous. Walk around and do free. Walk around and do happy. Because that's what it looks like if you just agree to let me take care of it. And in my egotistical wasteland, I look at God and go, okay, but make sure you do a good job. I am going to be keeping my eye on you. And so I started by giving God away the things that weren't mine to give, just to see if I could trust him. He's like, okay, so I'm going to let you deal with world hunger and the cure for cancer. I'm embarrassed. That's how I started that's how I started my relationship with God. And then I put myself in charge of everything else.
Thinking big. Yeah.
Yeah. I put myself in charge of my money, my relationships, where I work and where I lived. And I'm like, you're doing really good.
Yeah. No, I hear you. My day though starts as my eyes are not even open with an 11-step practice before I take my retainers out. Okay. FYI,
Yeah, I think you just overshared, man. I think you just overshared.
No, they're just Invisalign. They're just to keep the teeth straight. There's nothing complicated.
Yeah, I just envisioned you had like your whole teeth, and I'm
no.
like,
These are these little.
I'm Mexican. Right. You got to work with me. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, my teeth they're all real. They don't come out. It's just the retainers. They just
okay, good. No, I knew that.
More will be revealed. Shoot. But the 11-step practice starts as my eyes have barely opened with a number of prayers. And the tone of the prayers is always to see what he would have me do. Where can I be of service? All of that comes through right in the beginning, before my feet hit the ground. Sure, it's the 3rd and the 7th-step prayer. It's a version of the 11th-step prayer. It's the Thomas Merton prayer. It's the long version of the Serenity prayer, right? The beautiful long version, which we don't use as often as we could. But that's where it begins. And I'd be remiss not to say something about Thomas Merton, because that's an expression of how God sent me on a journey through Chicago some years back, where it seemed in every meeting I went to, they were saying that prayer. Some of the people knew it by heart, I can never memorize that prayer, though recently I come close. But they were saying it. And I saw this one guy at a couple of meetings in different parts of the city. I went up to him and I found out he was known as Larry the Monk. Apparently he had studied with Thomas Merton. And I had that wide-eyed look in my eyes. It was 2013. And he says, Andy, you're not thinking of getting into the monk business, are you? I said, no, why? He goes, you're looking a little starry-eyed there, but you're on the right path. And years later, meeting folks on Zoom, folks that also were like-minded about Thomas Merton, we went to the Abbey of Gethsemane in Kentucky. Susan, my wife, was a little confused. Where are you going? So I went with a sponsee, and we met some gentlemen from Toronto, and we saw those of us who know Luke A., Brother Luke, who, by the way, is incredibly athletic. And we sat in the Hermitage. We prayed together. I tried to do the monk's schedule. It's really tough, and very tough for one day. But this is where the powers led me, to come back here and be changed and be able to talk about it. Yeah, right. You go to the ocean with a thimble, you get a thimble. You go to the ocean with a bucket, you get a bucket. And that's been my experience now with how big God is.
And Andy, so often, people ask me all the time, Brenda, are you a stand-up comic? And the reason I never even think about that is because really a lot of the times I'm just trying to figure out what everybody's laughing at. Like, I don't really get why that's funny, but people all the time are like, well, you have that relationship with God because you had a mom and a dad that did this, or you have that because you grew up and you did this and this. And it's like, it pains me. It sends a sharp pain right in the middle of my heart that for some reason they feel like I have a relationship with God that's outside of their reach. Mm-hmm. And talk about, it just almost makes me want to fall to my knees and cry because, I tell that story all the time about the beggar that was in the line to go see the king, and he got up there and he said to the king, I want that bag of jewels. And the king reached over and handed it to him, and off went the beggar with him. And he came back the following week and he handed the bag back to the king, and he said, I didn't want the jewels. I wanted that thing inside you that let you give it to me. And every time I stand behind a podium, especially when I'm in person with people, it's like I can't figure out how to give you any more of my heart. I can't figure out how to share any more of my love affair with God. But trust me that if I've done anything, it's to continue to live in the yes. Every morning, God gets up. He goes, okay, so here's the crap we're going to get into today. I need somebody to be nice to that lady that nobody else is nice to on the meeting. And I'm like, I'll do that. And then he'll write my name down. And then he's like, I need somebody to give 5 $1 bills to the guy that's on Virginia University. And I'm like, well, I have $5 bills. He's like, put me down. That's it. We all have this huge cosmic to-do list, and then people are sitting around going, well, how come Brenda feels all that joy? How come she looks all friggin' happy all the friggin' time? And I'm like, I don't know, but it never hurt to put my name on this to-do list, is what I'm saying.
Well, you're living what Jelly Roll wrote, right? You know what Jelly Roll said?
Oh, God, I thought you were saying something about me and my looking like a jelly roll. And I'm like, man, that's not about there. Look, I just said I'm open my heart, but you roll up on me. Go ahead, Andy.
He's a profound songwriter.
Okay.
And what he said was, I only talk to God when I need a favor, and I only pray when I ain't gotta. So who the heck am I? Who the heck am I to expect a savior? Oh, if I only talk to God when I need a favor. We'll let that sit for a
Man,
second.
shut up.
Yeah,
I love you.
I love you too.
And I take back that jelly roll thing. I kind of jumped the gun on it. I can see.
Yeah, no, he has some, yeah, he has some things to say. And isn't that true? Right? The prayers that I ever had for so long were, the foxhole prayers, you know, you taught me the other positions. The second position, after God give me was God help me. And the third was God use me. So I try to say everything and just use me. And some days it's busy. You're busy, right? There seems to be a lot going on, right? And just a little more than what you might have taken on yourself, right? A little more inconvenient, a little more draining, but ultimately uplifting. Not just for us, but for what we're doing, just being on not the line of fire, but on the firing line of life. Finally.
I feel like every day, in one way or another, I get called to the table. I get called to the table of life, and a life is sitting across from me asking questions. And every day I come to that seat and report the same thing. I report the same thing every day. I had a guy that I was on the phone with him, and he said, if you don't say something to me, I'm gonna kill myself. I have a gun right here. And I'm in the middle of that going, help, God help me, God help me, God help me, God help me, God. He goes, if you don't tell me what you know right now, I'm gonna kill myself. And I'm like, help me, God, help me, God, help me, God. And this is what came from that moment of hysterical abandon. I said to him, the process of Alcoholics Anonymous works.
Mm.
That was the first thing I said. This process works. The second thing I said is, you are not alone, which is the biggest lie that my mind and my heart, it's the biggest lie that I'm by myself. And so I said to him, this process works. You are not alone. And God will help us. And as those words left my mouth, I thought to myself, what if he kills himself right now? But that was all I got. That was all I had. That was all I had. And don't get me wrong. I mean, he didn't kill himself, and he turned out to be this happy, joyous person. And for like 10 years, I wanted to kick his ass. I was trying to find a way to express my gratitude.
You just did.
I have and by the way, Andy, I love that you know so many lyrics to so many songs. I play guitar. I started playing guitar when I was about 5 years old. And I still don't read music. I still just play by ear. And I used to sing in bars and at parties and all this. And then I got sober. I went from knowing like 200 songs to knowing two.
It's all gone. It's all gone.
It all got fried and it left. But I really love that you know all those songs and you know all those groups that I don't know what you're talking about. But I try and like look happy for you when you share, hey, have you heard of so and so? And I'm like, as I'm making myself a note to go look something up about them next time. But you said a lot of people I don't know. I was busy. And so
it's complimentation.
Complimentation.
Yeah.
Because I only know like the first two lines of Brick House by the Commodores.
Now you're talking.
I know. I felt Jesus. I felt
that was when Lionel Richie was really, really doing it. I mean, he had a great career. He wrote some good stuff after that, but with the Commodores, come on.
Hey, this is such an alcoholic thing to do, Andy. We're talking about this in Brick House, and I finally felt the presence of God with us. And my alarm goes off on my phone saying, "Hey, flood warning." Now, given the experience that we're having right now in the state
Oh
of
God.
Texas
Yeah,
around
yeah, yeah.
floods, the alcoholic thing I did, I looked, it says flood warning. I'm like, delete.
Not tonight.
And you know what's interesting is that, and what I wanted to say was that I go to the table of life every day and report out the same thing. I report out that God is good. I report out that love is enough. I report out that I am living and standing in the sunlight at last. And I reported those facts on the day that I held my father as he died.
Mm. Mm.
I reported those facts on the day that I helped my sister bury my nephew. Because if it's true in the morning about God, it's true at the end of the day about God.
Mm.
I don't want my father to be dying and me trying to figure out how to get to a meeting. I want my father to be dying and my car to know how to go by itself. I
Yeah.
don't want to be introducing myself to people in Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Cocaine's Anonymous or Al-Anon. I don't want to be introducing myself on the day that I'm coming in with my heart bleeding in my hands.
Yes. Yes. And what I've seen and what we've seen is that as God doesn't waste pain, um, and if Pharrell Williams wrote and meant that today my life's a symphony, my life is a room without a roof, that means that a sober heart, where you've all taught me how to experience me, means that great sorrow and great joy can inhabit the same space. And the same space. Um,
The day
and
that we buried my dad, he died on Christmas Eve, and the church doesn't bury people on Christmas and such. So it was the 27th of December, the year that he died. And we had already finished. And, I played at the church and I played at the graveside, and we were getting ready to leave. And Gabriel, my little nephew, comes up and he said, "We forgot Grandpa's favorite song,"
mm,
which coincidentally was also Gabriel's favorite song. And I said, what song is that?" He said, "Jingle Bells." He really liked it. It was his. So we all went back. We all walked back to the graveside, and in our Christmas voices, we all sang Jingle Bells.
look at God. Look at God.
God doesn't give me enough power to do the easy days. God gives me enough power to do all the days.
All the days. And God, well, I don't have the power to ruin God's plans, apparently. And to just mention the awesome power of that, um, that is God. Great joy and great sadness. I've told this story, but I'll tell it again because it just seems to keep coming back. Our daughter Lauren is 26 weeks pregnant. She's doing great. Baby's doing great. She knows she's having a girl. Seems our family only makes girls, so far. And nothing wrong with that. That's for sure. And a year or so ago, she got married, in this really beautiful setting in upstate New York. Um, and around the same time, my best friend, a lot of people's best friend, my sister-in-law Barbara, passed away from a rare cancer. That this was somebody who was as healthy as anybody, and suddenly it hit her. In 6 months, she was gone, and made a valiant battle to stay alive. And it was all happening at once, you know. See, I got to because of this, because of our 12 steps, because of the fellowship, good sponsor, the place that I've been able to come to finally be at home. You've taught me so much, Brenda, and others have too, that I got to say this at the reception. I was asked to say something, and I said, love is patient, love is kind, love rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always hopes, and always perseveres. Lauren and Nick are a couple for the ages who met during the pandemic, fell in love, and then decided to share their lives together forever, singing, Then I Look at You, and the World Is All Right by Me. Just one look at you, and I know it's going to be a lovely day. Bill Withers. But then to finish up, at Barbara's funeral, I got to say, well, you taught me this. The wind in Barbara's life is now the wind in our lives. The wind is simply crossed over.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I know we're going to go to questions, but I just want to tell you this. I have a friend, and she's an artist, and she has these gallery showings, and I go to them, and not one time has somebody come in and said, hey, wow, that's spectacular. Can I see the brush you used? Where another friend that I have, nobody's ever come in and said, hey, can I see the little wheel that was spinning the vase? Like, nobody's ever asked to see those things. What they want to do is look upon this thing, and they want to see the artist. They're like, is the artist here? I just want to tell them what this does to me, this thing I'm seeing and how it moves me. And I want you to know that in that scenario, I am the brush. I am the wheel, I am the cog, I am the instrument, and God is the artist. Andy, I love you with my whole heart. Thank you.
Right back at you. Love you with my heart too, Brenda. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. Now I actually regret that I raised my hand, because that last statement, Brenda, left me with a woo. Actually, I was thinking about this idea that you were talking about, and the who am I actually, that I talk to God only when I need a favor. That is so brilliant. That is something that has come up lately, that hardly really do I ask for guidance. I do ask for help, right? I do ask for many things. Hardly do I ask for guidance. And I think this is part of the growth. But, and that's another thing and I'm going to have a question after this. I just want you to know that I was paying attention. But Brenda, you also talked about this idea that I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to come to God with a solution, right? Yep. What an incredible thing. What an incredible thing to say, God, just use me, and how can I get close, The question that I want to ask is that, what do you do in those moments of pain, Brenda? What do you do when you have moments like today that you have to question your thinking, and that you know intuitively that you need to run towards the voice of God, that this is where you're going, but it hurts and it's heavy? How do you do it?
Listen, I want you to know that how I do that is with my entire heart. I have enough evidence now that if I run to God, before I get there, I'm going to have everything I need. And it's like saying to somebody, how do you run in the marathon? Because I ran on Tuesday, and I ran on Wednesday, and I ran on Thursday, and I ran on Friday, and I ran when it was cold, and I ran when it was dark, and I ran when I was exhausted. I ran when it hurt, and that way on the day I needed, when I needed to know how to do that, I already knew how.
You all taught me to stay in the furnace. I ran for so long, but now someone said, it's just pain.
Shut up.
And and that's straight from God right there. It's just pain. To stay in it and know that it's going to be a growth experience. And in moments when it's most painful, what I tend to say is, okay, God, you got me. I'm not going anywhere. And there's always peace, because it's a shift. It's always a learning experience, no matter how painful it is. I spent a lifetime, either numbing it or avoiding it. And now, okay. Yeah. Bring it. Yeah, let's do this, because God's not going to desert me and none of you are either. And I'm not alone, because we'll all do this together. We recover, right? Together.
I have that little student that said, Brenda, how do you make people do stuff they don't want to do? How do you make them go places they don't want to go? And the little girl said, you go first. And I'm going to tell you what, when I die, they're going to be able to say a whole bunch of shit about me, and most of which I'm going to leave in writing, hoping that somebody says about me. But beyond that, the one thing that they're not going to say is that she lived afraid. That is never going to be the truth. I go because I have God. I go because I know how. I go because if I'm going to ask the women I'll sponsor to do hard things, I have got to have gone first. Go first. And I want you to know I have run off of every cliff I've come to in my whole life. I don't know enough to be afraid. I belong to God. All the parachutes open, all the stones appear. And the way I know that is because I have to run off the edge. There's no way to figure out whether or not the parachute works unless I jump.
Guys, I just want to encourage you to ask whatever you want. There are no crazy questions here. This is such an open forum. Like, really feel free. There you go. We have Bobby.
And Bobby, I'm an alcoholic and I'm not drunk today. It's a miracle and a blessing. Thank you. I'm so glad I could come in and hear you guys. I was in my face-to-face home group, and now I'm going to mess you up, Raquel. You said there's no crazy questions. I think there's no stupid questions. I got crazy questions. All my questions are crazy. I know everything is in God's time, but sometimes my human experience, which is reality, teaches me or shows me that I have very little time. I feel like I have to hurry up. How can I be what God will have me be when I feel like I have so little time?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I hate to disappoint you, but the thing about time is the one guarantee we have is that we're going to have enough. The one guarantee that we have about time is that we're going to have enough. And I'm going to tell you, it's that thing where, like, when I sit at a table and there's 20 of us, I will wait until everyone gets their food to eat, because I'd rather eat with you than have my food hot. There's plenty of time, there's plenty of time. And when I think that there's not enough time, that fear originates outside of me. And I say to God, if all I have is 4 minutes, they're going to be delicious.
Hey, Bobby, it's back to questioning, God's timing. God is in this surprise, and timing is impeccable, regardless of my perception about how things should go. As painful as that can be, as frustrating as that can be. If I've abandoned myself to God, then that means that God's timing is the timing, not my perception of it, whatever it may be. I remember hearing on a tape years ago from Chuck C. He said, in this life, we have no place to go, nothing to do, and nothing to win. We just be. Imagine living like that every day. It's tough. I mean, it's an ideal, isn't it?
Well, and the whole idea that the only place God is The only place God is in the corner of here and now. Why am I worried about that time over there? If God, the only place God exists is at the intersection of here and now.
Right
And
now.
it's one thing to trust God's will. It's a whole other thing to trust God's pace.
What is wrong with this moment right now?
God's here. I'm here. Chocolate's here.
Oh, you got the chocolate. That's the key.
Debbie, go ahead.
I was just inspired to ask a question. Love to hear both of your responses. What would you say to a newcomer or chronic relapser who is having trouble with their sponsor, having trouble with their mother, having trouble with both their employers? Just can't seem to just can't seem to get any of it right. That's their perception, of course. Can't seem to get any of it right. What would you say?
Well, the book gets very clear about that, right? That our troubles are of our own making. It might be the best promise in the book because that means that nothing has to change outside of me in order for me to be okay. I might show him that and say, look, in We Agnostics, it says simply that this book is about finding a power that will solve your problem and mentioning that, by the way, the problem is you. It's not anything outside you, right? Now, that may take some time for it to settle in, but that's the beginning. That's the ultimate truth, right?
Look, what people tend to need when they're new is identification and somewhere to belong. So what I do when people are like, my boss and my mom, and I'm like, me too, that happened, me too. But I think that at the meeting at 4, I think they're going to talk about that. Let's go to the meeting at 4. And then we go to the meeting at 4 and it's like, my goodness, they might talk about it at the 8 o'clock. Let's go to the 8 o'clock. And then they'll share about their boss. And then I'll share about my boss and how when I got here, this happened. And, look, they just make meetings and conferences and retreats and all that. They just make all that so I can stay here long enough to get to the steps. All they need is company. I hear you. Look, they walk around their whole lives feeling like nobody ever heard them. And so I say, I hear you, and I'm right here. And when it gets hard, when something happens, call me, because I want to know, because I know this is going to work out, but I don't know quite how, but it's going to be fabulous. So make sure you stay in touch with me about that.
Thank you so much, both of you. And I maybe should have specified even further. This is someone that's being taken through the steps. And well into the steps.
Hey, tell whatever voice in your head said you should have clarified that better to shut the hell up. You did fine. All right.
Thank you. El, we have time for your question. Would you like to say your question, please?
Hello, I have 2 short questions. Is that okay?
Okay, we'll close, of course. Go ahead, shoot.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, everybody. And Brenda and Andy, I can't believe I'm seeing you again in the space of a week. That's amazing.
Nice.
Thank you. I have a question. When I had end-stage liver failure, kidney failure, and a 5 to 8% chance to live, the doctors said it would take a miracle. They knew their limitations, and they told me that it would be, I might not die today, but it's going to be the next day or the day after that, but I certainly wouldn't be there until the next week. Now, I have heard through quite a few famous voices in AA, back in the day, that when Dr. Silkworth had in his medical opinion, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. Taking an O out of good to say God was the closest he could get to explaining that this was actually far beyond medicine, and it was actually, or science, or, you know, it was actually about God. But that was the closest he could kind of get to saying it without, you know, losing his job and reputation and all the rest of it. So when the doctor said to me in the hospital, it would take a miracle, do you think that that's what they kind of technically meant? Because my life was saved and I did survive, and I was discharged from the hospital 3 months later, able to walk again, eat, drink, go to the toilet again.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I concur.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, the next question is a lot harder. I do have a sponsee who says that she told me from the outset that she's never going to believe in God, and there's no point in me ever attempting that. But she was really willing to go through the steps and willing to go to any lengths for her sobriety. She nearly died coming in. So, and she's an older lady. She's in her 70s now. And the reason that she can't get her head around God is because one of her babies was born with a very serious kidney condition, and her baby suffered for 8 weeks and then died. And she said that if there was a God, that God is not the God, that no God would ever do that. And it's a hard one, isn't it? Because that's not the God we believe in, is it?
You know, while that is just tremendously painful, that whole experience had to be then and probably is still today, by the way you're describing her, really painful. I tell people all the time, oh no, that guy got let go. That God, that little God that used to be in charge, that's not who we're talking about anymore here. We have a bigger God now. We have a God that actually can do the impossible. It's an upgrade, because that's what happens, right? Like, I get here and I get sober and I work the steps and I get a bigger God. I get a more personal relationship. And it's like, no, we're not gonna turn this over to the God of little, to the God of lack.
Yeah.
We're gonna turn this over. And look, I've read all the literature. It doesn't say in there that we have to believe in God in order to stay sober or work the steps in Alcoholics Anonymous. It doesn't. And people are sober, full-blown agnostic, full-blown atheist, reaping the benefits of this program. And we're just going to give her all the time she needs. She gets to take as wide a turn as she needs to. And just on a personal note, I would strongly recommend working through some hospice counseling, any kind of grief work, because the book talks a lot about we should make use of outside resources as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, I have been crying and laughing over here. I can't tell you how much I've gotten from tonight. And thank you all who have asked questions. I'm sorry to have to cut us off, but want to respect everybody's time. And I'd like to close the meeting now. And if the speakers can stay on for a couple more questions.